Andrea Clausen here, and today we are going to do a restorative yoga practice. So the props that you might need for this, you might need a blanket, and it doesn't have to be a stiff yoga blanket if you just have a blanket off your couch. If you have yoga blocks handy, again, not needed. You can also substitute a stiffer pillow. And then the final thing is a bolster, which I'm sitting on right now. And a bolster is just a firmer pillow, so if you don't have a bolster, you can always just grab a firm pillow that you can use. So you can always stack. I've had people stack pillows, one on top of the other, or one literally on top of the other. So you can decide what would work best for you in your practice today, but I would recommend these few items if you have them. All right, so I'm just gonna have you go ahead and find a comfortable seated position. I'm gonna be sitting up in a bolster just because it feels better on my hips. So if this feels better for you, go ahead and just find something to sit on just to kind of tilt the pelvis forward. Then the palms will go ahead and face down on your legs. Then you can go ahead and close your eyes. And all I want you to do is take a deep inhale in through the nose and open mouth exhale out through the mouth. Breathing deep in through the nose and open mouth exhale out through the mouth. Then you can go ahead and seal off the mouth and start to inhale and exhale only through the nose. As you're doing so, I want you to start to slowly count your inhale. Notice how long it is. Next, start to count your exhale. Notice how long the exhale is. Then finally, we're going to put those together. So if you inhaled for a count of, let's say, 4, I want your exhale to try to be at least 2 counts longer. So if you inhaled for a count of 4, try to exhale for a count of 6. Now we're going to slowly add on from there. So if that felt comfortable, I'm going to invite you to try to double your exhale. So if you inhale for a count of 4, try to make your exhale for a count of 8. Now if that doesn't feel comfortable, go back to making your exhale 2 counts longer. So maybe you go back to the inhale for 4, exhale for a count of 6. And the reason we're having that exhale be a little bit longer than the inhale is that helps put us into the parasympathetic nervous system, so that rest and digest, which is perfect for a restorative yoga practice. So I'm going to have you take one more round with that breath. And then you can go ahead and release that. And we'll get ready for our first pose. So for our first pose, I'll invite you to use your blocks if you have them. If you don't even need them. We can just put the bolster or your pillow right in the floor. So your blocks, I'm going to go on the small direction. And then we're going to go ahead and stack our bolster or our pillow up on top. Next, we're going to go ahead and put our soles of our feet on top of our bolster. So you're going to sit about 12 inches away from your blocks. You're going to go ahead and lay down on your back. Soles of your feet are coming together. Knees are going to be open out wide. Arms can lay out to the sides or they can lay on your low belly. But with this pose, we want to be working 30% or less. So if this feels really intense on your hips, you can always take your blankets and put them underneath for a little extra cushioning. Or you can even go ahead and take that bolster off the blocks and use your blocks underneath those hips. So you can just leave your bolster on the floor, and then you can take those blocks right underneath the hips, and that might help aid it in as well. So we want these poses. You can go ahead and settle in. I'm going to start the time. We want these poses to be 30% working or less. So meaning we don't want you to be working very hard. The restorative part is truly relaxing into the body and into those muscles. So finding whatever best suits you, your soles of your feet together. If none of those feel great, or if this 4 minutes gets to be a little long, I'm going to show you what I would advise you to try. You could just simply, because I knocked mine over, you can just simply let your calves rest in the bolster and your palms can come to the low belly. And we're already about a minute into it. So for these next 3 minutes, I want you to focus on the breath once more. And we're going to come back to that first breath. So trying to make that exhale 2 counts longer than your inhale, or maybe twice as long. So you deciding what works best for you. And I'm going to leave you in silence, as I will do for many of the poses. I want to get you in, maybe talk you through it for the first few minutes, and then leave you with some silence. You can kind of work on yourself, listen to your thoughts, noticing what comes up. So giving you that breath exercise to focus on can hopefully help ease the mind or ease a little maybe anxiety. So really focus in on that breath, making that exhale 2 counts longer, if not twice as long as that inhale. And you'll be here for about another 2 minutes, settling into the body, coming out of the pose if you need to, if it feels too intense. Last few breaths in this pose. Using that exhale to release. And on your next exhale, you're going to gently bring your hands on each side of the leg if your knees are open, and gently guide your knees back to center. And we'll all meet with our feet flat on the bolster. And then we'll give our knees a hug, just rocking side to side, massaging out those hips. Then we're going to go ahead and extend that right arm out to the side, out in front of us. We're going to roll onto our right side. And then from here, you're just going to gently push up to a comfortable seated position. We're just going to move some props off to the side for the next one. So if you do have props on here, you're going to go ahead and move them off. If you have a blanket, we're going to do a crocodile pose next. And sometimes you can kind of make like a massage pillow for your head. So this is kind of not a very, I was trying to do it fast, but the easiest way to do it is roll up your blanket and then kind of make a little massage pillow like this. And you can put that at the top of your mat. And you'll see why in a second. We're going to come into a crocodile pose, and so we're going to come onto our bellies. And you can go ahead and place your head in that massage pillow if you choose. You don't have to. But your head can go rest in here. Your arms are going to be out to the sides, so usually at 90 degrees. Your feet can rest flat on the floor, or if you want a little ankle opening, heels in, toes flipped out, and your forehead is just resting down on the floor. If you don't have a pillow, your forehead is just resting down. Or you can rest one ear to the mat, and I will let you know when it's halfway if you want to switch to the other side. Or you can just stay on that pillow if this feels really good. Sometimes it feels good to put that pillow on each side of the arms as well. So it's a little support on the shoulders. So coming into that pose, go ahead and find your version. I've started the time, and we're going to be here for 3.5 minutes. And the breath I want you to focus on in crocodile pose is going to be 3-part breath. And so it's best felt, I found, laying on your belly. And so in the 3-part breath, we're going to slowly focus our inhale, breathing into that low belly. So feel your low belly hitting the floor with each breath. Along with that low belly hitting the floor, feel that low back expanding. So feeling the belly and that low back, nice big breaths in. Next, I want you to bring your awareness up into the ribs. So with your inhale, focusing on feeling the rib cage expand with each breath. Especially lying on your belly, it should be a little bit easier to feel. So not only the front body, but into the back body with those ribs. Next, breathing into the chest. So breathing into that top chest part of the body. Now we're going to combine that. We're going to go ahead and inhale. As we inhale, we're going to feel that breath come into our low belly. Then that same breath is going to move into our ribs. And then the same breath is going to move all the way up into our chest cavity. With our exhale, we're going to try to release from our chest cavity, then down the ribs, and then down the low back. So with one breath, we're breathing in from the low belly, ribs to the chest, and then that exhale, releasing from the chest, ribs, low belly. So it's moving up and it's moving down. Now this takes time to learn, but it's a great practice to do, trying to locate each one of those compartments in the body. If you are taking one ear to the side of the mat, go ahead and switch to the opposite side because we are about halfway with time. So if you did have maybe that right ear down on the mat, go ahead and put the left ear down. If your forehead is down in that pillow or forehead is on the mat, just keep resting there. And as we do this, I want you to keep working that 3-part breath. So we have about another minute here. So I want you to work on that 3-part breath and don't get frustrated. Just honor and see how your body feels today. With your next exhale, you're going to slowly turn your toes back to center, bringing the hands alongside the chest. You're going to gently push up to your knees, coming to all fours. And then you can go ahead and take a seat. So just kind of taking a few breaths here, feeling that body expand, breathing into that 3-part breath. And then we're going to go ahead and grab that blanket. And we're going to do a little pose that you can use with the blanket or with a block. So with your blanket, you're going to go ahead and just fold it, and you're going to fold it in half. So it's going to be in half like so, and then you're going to fold it once more. And so you're gonna get to a spot where you basically, like for me, this is what I want, because I want my body to rest on it, and it's gonna rest like so. So you want it to be about the length of your mat. So you're gonna go ahead and place it right in the center of your mat. And you want it long enough so it's probably about, in terms of this length, you want it probably at least a block and a half. So if you put like a block, you want about a block and a half width. You're gonna lay it right there, right in the middle of the mat. You're gonna go ahead and you're gonna find yourself butted right up next to it. So you're sitting right close to that, because I want you to lay over the top of it. So you're gonna come down onto your forearms, and then you're gonna lay over the top. So it's just a little back bend. It's nothing that should feel intense. If it feels intense, go ahead and release some of the blanket. It's gonna be a little bit too high then. So with your legs straight, you can leave them right like that. Your arms can open into field goal arms. If this is too much on your low back, bend into your knees and let those knees stay flat like so, or you can let your knees fall inwards. And so you're getting a little outer hip stretch as well. And you're just gonna rest here. And so this should feel really nice, a gentle opener on that low back. So I'm gonna start our time. We're gonna be here for about 4 minutes. So settling in, if it gets to be too intense, just roll to the side and remove the blanket and just rest on your back, on the mat. So for your breath work for this pose, I want you to focus on breathing in for a count of 4. At the top, so basically you'll breathe in for those 4 breaths, or 4 counts is basically how we say it, 4 seconds. So breathing in, that was my 4 seconds. I'm gonna hold my breath at the top for 7 seconds. Then I will exhale for 8 seconds, or 8 counts. So you'll inhale for 4, hold your breath at the top for 7, exhale for 8. If 4, 7, and 8 feel like it's way too much, go ahead and try 4, 5, and 6. So modify it just a little bit. But if 4, 7, and 8 feel great, start there. So really feeling those lungs expand and contract with your breath. We'll be here for about another 2.5 minutes, so really settling in. If that breath gets to be too much, just feel free to release it and find your own breath and your own rhythm. then on your next exhale, gently bend the knees if they're not already, placing them flat on the floor. You can go ahead and roll over to that right side again. Pushing into that left hand, slowly guiding yourself up to a comfortable seated position. You can go ahead and remove that blanket, and we're going to move it off to the side. You're going to go ahead and grab your bolster again, your bolster or your pillow. So we're going to lay that bolster on the right side of our mat. We're going to go ahead and lay down on our back again. So that bolster is going to come now onto that right side of the leg. The right leg is extended straight. Left leg is going to gently guide across, and you're going to rest your left knee, and hopefully your shin and your ankle are going to fit on the bolster or pillow that you have at home. Your left shoulder is going to come down to the floor. If it does not, grab your blanket and use that as a little guide. So for restorative, it's not necessarily about the torque that we're looking for, because we are looking for it to be a relaxing twist. So if that left shoulder's off the mat a little bit, go ahead and bring that blanket so it's resting on that. And you're going to be looking more towards the front of the ceiling, so the top of the ceiling, than over the left shoulder in the restorative pose. And if this is too deep on your knee, so maybe your left hip is still really feeling the stretch and it's doing more than 30% of work, you can always grab another blanket or maybe your block and rest your knee just a little bit higher. Now, the one thing I would caveat this with is maybe you would want 2 blocks, because now I'm getting torque on my knee. So if you have the props, maybe you build yourself a nice little gentle restorative pose here. So this actually works fine. This is kind of my do it myself, what I have on hand. So again, you're going to be looking up towards the ceiling. Eyes can be closed. And for this one, I just want you to focus on your inhale and releasing on your exhale. So inhale, you're thinking length. Exhale, where can you release from this twist just a little more? We're only going to be in this twist for 2 minutes each side. And we've already almost been in it for 1.5 minutes on this side. So we're going to keep that breath work coming. On your next exhale, you're going to gently guide that left knee into the chest and then gently rolling onto the back, giving the knees a hug, resetting the back. And then you're going to move your props to the opposite side. So now we're going to take them to the left side of the body. Each side of the body is going to need something different. So now the bolster is on my left hip. Maybe I'll need the blanket for my shoulder, maybe not. Maybe I won't need the blocks on this side. But your left leg will lengthen. Your right leg is going to come up and rest on the bolster, on the blocks. You're going to look up, straight up to the ceiling, and then that right shoulder will be down on the floor. And for me, I'm finding this side is a little bit more loose. And so I would just change kind of the props I have. So I wouldn't need the blanket underneath my shoulder. I can probably release the blocks. I don't need to have the blocks on there on this side. And once more, we're settling in for our 2 minutes on this side. Focusing on the inhale, finding that length. The exhale, where can you release? next exhale, you're going to gently guide that right knee into the chest, rolling back onto your back, giving your knees a hug, and then coming to roll onto the right side, and then gently pushing yourself up to a comfortable seated position. All right, we got 2 more poses. We're going to do a heart opener next. So we're going to grab that bolster or those pillows. You might like a block underneath the top, or a blanket, or a pillow, whatever you have at home. You might not. This, I find, it depends on everyone's torso and your bolster and your firmness on your pillow. So for this one, we're going to go ahead and place that block maybe underneath the top of it, maybe not. You're going to, again, come right up to the back. Your lower back is going to be right next to that bolster. And you're going to go ahead and lay over the top of the bolster. Legs can be straight. Arms are just going to rest down on the floor. So if your forearms aren't underneath the floor, once more, grabbing some props. Give yourself a blanket underneath your forearm if it's not quite on the floor. So for me, this is actually great. That little block gives me just the right amount of height. Now, if you want a little bit more of a yin, which we're not necessarily doing today, but if you want more of a hip opener in yin, you can take that Supta Baddha Konasana again, soles of the feet together, knees can go out to the sides. You can also take that, and if you want to make it a little more gentler, maybe you take your blocks underneath, and maybe you take a blanket, block, whatever again you have, and you put them underneath each side. And now for me, this is really nice and restorative. It doesn't feel like I'm working at all, which is what I'm going for. And so you're just going to rest here for 3 minutes and letting those shoulders rest down your back. Once more, gently closing the eyes. And I want you to come back to whichever breath today that you really enjoyed. So maybe it's coming back to making that exhale 2 counts longer than your inhale, or making that exhale twice as long as your inhale. So that inhale for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 8. Maybe it's the 3-part breath where you breathed into the low belly, then into the ribs, and then the chest, and you release chest, ribs, belly. Or maybe it was inhaling for a count of 4, holding at the top for 7, exhaling for 8. So you decide what breath you want to come back into today. And again, trying to breathe in and out only through the nose to help put yourself into that parasympathetic state. So we're going to be here for about another 1.5 minutes. Just noticing where else you can release in your body. And if you really are feeling like you could release some things, especially because you're probably doing this at home, an audible sighing it out. That really helps you release any tension that might be in the body. So if you need to take a few sigh it out, audible exhales, go for it, do it. Always encouraged in my classes. If you've taken that Supta Baddha Konasana with your knees open, go ahead and gently guide your knees back to center. Moving props off to the side, maybe grabbing behind the knees and behind the back of the legs and just gently rolling up to take tree stump pose, hugging your knees, letting your forehead come down towards your knees. And then we'll gently come out of that. We'll come into our final pose today, which is going to be legs up the wall. So if you have a wall space available, go ahead and head towards that wall now. We're going to be here for about 4 minutes. So if you know legs up the wall, you can go ahead and go into it. If not, I will walk you through it. Now, I would preface with this, if you are pregnant, you can always roll up a blanket, and this can go underneath your low back, and that sometimes, again, that helps with the pelvis, tipping your pelvis. It also is great if you're not pregnant too, and you just want that pelvis tilt, or I also like to use it underneath my head. So I'm just gonna let mine go underneath my head for this one. So to get into it, you're gonna go ahead and put your hip right next to the wall. So I'm literally right next to the wall. What you're gonna do is you're gonna gently guide yourself down to lay on your back. Your legs are going up the wall. Hopefully you don't have a picture. Mine is like right there. So no, normally I would put my legs all the way up, but my heels are gonna hit my picture, and I trust my hanging skills, but not that much. So I'm gonna put my legs a little bent just for this demo. But your legs can go up. If your hamstrings are really tight, it might feel better to bend your knees like this anyway. Your palms can go open and you get a little chest expansion, or you can let them rest on the low belly. And you're just gonna settle in here. So you're just gonna relax and release. Once more, sighing it out when it feels comfortable. And we'll be here for about another 2.5 minutes, and I'm gonna let you know when it's time to come out. And once more, you're gonna settle into whatever breath practice feels natural. So maybe just inhaling and exhaling out through the nose and not paying any attention to the length. Then just settling into your mind and into your body. You're going to gently bring your knees into the chest. Rolling over to your right or left side. And you're just going to stay there for just about a minute. So anytime we're in legs up the wall, it's always nice to just kind of settle in on one of the sides. Let your blood flow, just so you don't get lightheaded. Just relaxing into that. And it is normal for your legs to get tingly, so if you're wondering, it is. gently push into either hand, coming up to find your comfortable seated position once more. We're going to go ahead and take those palms up above our head, bringing them down to that third eye, that spot between the eyebrows, trusting your intuition, bringing your hands to your lips, speaking your truth, bringing your hands to heart center, knowing yourself. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. Thank you all so much for attending today, and I hope you feel a little bit more relaxed and renewed.